Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everybody.
This is Anthony Marinelli with my longtime friend Stephen Ray for Stories in the Room. And we're here once again to answer any questions that anyone might have about the podcasts or anything that you just always wanted to know about Michael or the process of recording the album, the greatest album of all time, Thriller.
Yep. So, questions.
We're just waiting for the people to start coming in the queue.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Is there anything you guys want to talk about?
What's the latest episode that got released?
Yeah.
Matt Forger, and Michael's business side.
Oh, well, that's kind of an interesting. That's kind of an area that doesn't get talked about very much.
Yeah, no,
right?
it doesn't. Yeah.
How Michael, I learned a lot of things there too. How, I knew that he studied the early dancers like Fred Astaire and his partner Ginger Rogers
Yeah.
and Gene Kelly.
Sammy Davis Jr.,
The greats.
Bojangles, the Tappers,
Right.
Yeah.
But he also studied business. And whenever he could have a conversation with somebody that knew about business, he wanted to learn more. And I think what I'm understanding to be what drove him was that it was a way that he could get his creative ideas out there, because there was a lot of resistance for somebody. When Michael was just coming off the wall, he was a recording artist and a singer, but he didn't have all original material. He was singing other people's material for the most part. And at the Thriller point, he was just getting filled with ideas, and he was ready to branch out into the world. And some of those ideas, just people weren't going to bankroll, not right out of the gate.
No, and he started to understand the value of ownership of copyright. Him spending the time he did with Paul McCartney, him, talking to Quincy about that a lot. The importance of an artist owning their songs, and the purchase of the Sly Stone catalog, which is I think the first catalog he purchased.
How long after Thriller was that?
No, that was actually before Thriller. He purchased Sly.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he owned the Sly.
Before Thriller, before he
during the time he owned Sly Stone's catalog.
But he was onto that before he spoke with Paul McCartney.
No, yeah, he was. I wouldn't say he was. I like to say he knew that the value of what that is. He spent all that time with Berry Gordy, obviously, being with Motown, and watching Berry, build that empire. He got to a point where he could financially be able to purchase, or do acquisition of music.
But it was before Thriller.
Oh yes, it was before. Oh yeah, it was before Thriller. Yeah.
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah.
So we got some questions started to come in. Molly Wilcox says, "Hey guys, I'm a huge fan of your work. MJ fan in the house. Just wanted to know what you think makes Thriller have that everlasting impact, and it's still fresh today."
It's amazing.
It's as the great Leonard Bernstein would say, the most important thing about music is it makes you feel good, and this album made everyone feel good.
It could be that simple.
That's what that's what the great Leonard Bernstein.
What's the complicated technical answer?
Yeah, either music makes you feel good or it doesn't. And this album obviously made millions of people feel really good.
I think they had their heart set on that too, right? In the selection of the songs.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
taking the amount of time that was needed, not rushing it necessarily.
Yeah.
A lot of things we've talked about, but maybe Stephen, I think that's probably about the best thing, like for any songwriters too.
Yeah, you're a composer. I'm a songwriter. You're a songwriter. You know it in the room what something feels good when you're writing it. And in that room, we all felt really good about what was happening.
So
being
true.
with each other.
Hearing it for some of those songs for the first time too.
Yeah, that was really.
It was definitely a feeling that I had, and it was a good feeling.
Yeah.
But it's not like you could say like, well, it's because Billie Jean is an F sharp minor.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a weird key. I think it is an F sharp minor.
Yeah.
But I know like the classical composers used to, like certain keys they would assign to certain feelings.
Yeah.
Because they had like synesthesia, and they felt like color sensitive to certain keys, and that would, give them feelings. But I think it really transcends the age groups and the like you said, the time, the decades.
Yeah.
People still feel good from it. Why don't they feel good from other stuff?
You never know. You never know. It's that's just what music is. It's you don't have to explain it. You just have to feel it.
Which sometimes is the toughest question to answer, right?
Right.
Can't intellectualize that.
Right.
Good one. Thank you, Molly.
Bobby Huff asked, do you remember how much Jeff Porcaro was there? You remember much about Jeff Porcaro being there?
Yes, absolutely. He was a joy to be in the room with. He had a lot of energy. He was fun. Big laughs. We had big laughs with him, and just watching him put down the drums on the songs that he played on, especially on "Beat It" at Sunset Sound. I have a very vivid memory of that. And he was a joy. Jeff was just nothing but a joy and a phenomenal musician.
And he was at A Girl Is Mine too, right?
Yeah.
So he was doing Beat It, the drums for Beat It at Sunset Sound because Westlake, I guess, was just so busy. There were so many things going on.
Yeah, Thriller and the E.T. Storybook album.
Yeah.
So at the same time,
so that was like the studio down the street. You know, Sunset Sound. Most of the tracking happened at Westlake Recorders. So, but you remember Jeff because he sort of was part of that rhythm section.
Yeah.
With Toto, but then he got to play with Lewis.
Yeah, on Michael McDonald's I Keep Forgetting, and he played with him on Thriller. Yeah, on Thriller as well. But that happened because he had played on with Michael McDonald. It's really I Keep Forgetting is Lewis and Jeff.
Is that how it led to?
Yeah, I can't remember which one. I think McDonald came. I Keep Forgetting was before. I think it was before Thriller came out. Yeah.
Oh.
I think. I'm pretty sure.
So they had played together before.
Yeah.
The Motown Boy 1 asks, wasn't there a first version of the album that was too long for one LP, so the songs were edited down for the final version?
I don't remember it being edited down. I remember it having to be redone because, there was a lot of issues with the mix. Bruce and Quincy and Michael and Rod were not happy with the final mix because long hours working on both the E.T. Storybook album, like I just said, it just had to be redone, remixed. But I don't know if it was because the album was too long. I don't remember that.
Yeah, well then that would be saying like the songs were longer, right? And they were edited. Right. But I mean, if you remember back then, you could only put so much on vinyl.
Yeah.
So sometimes you'd buy records with just like 2 songs on them, and then they were higher quality.
Right.
The more you fill it up, then I guess the grooves are smaller.
Yeah.
You don't have the fidelity. So
was it a double or it was a single?
It was a single album.
Single album, yeah.
Yeah, both sides.
Yeah.
And we'd have to look at it. Like if you have an album, take a look. I don't know how full what's the runtime on Thriller? Does anybody know right off?
Yeah.
I think it's right around 45 minutes, right under.
So that's about the max they would ever want to go before you'd start to really compromise the quality and the vinyl.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it being like trying to trim any song.
Yeah, I don't remember that either.
But Thriller got longer. Long versions later.
Yeah, later, the 25th anniversary. Yeah.
They opened them up.
Yeah.
But I mean, okay, so some of the songs went on, so they did cut them.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I remember starting something just. It just kept on going, right?
Yeah.
Like it would just go, and then maybe they edited it, the good parts, and moved it in. It was all manually edited with razor blades back then.
Yeah, my favorite version of Billie Jean is the long version, because he starts ad-libbing and doing all this stuff that's really cool.
I don't think I ever heard that.
Yeah, it's really...
It's 42 minutes exactly, the record.
The record? Okay, that's good.
Yeah, they have the 12-inch. I think on online you can Google Billie Jean 12-inch.
Oh.
And hear it, but... Michael just...
You heard that at Westlake?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the songs were long.
Doing his thing.
They jammed out.
Yeah.
So they did edit them.
David Zilberman, who's interviewing Anthony Tomorrow says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Greg Fillinganes recently mentioned in the podcast that Michael was a great drummer. Did you ever see MJ play drums during the Thriller sessions?"
No. that would be a no.
He played drum cases.
Yeah.
On Beat It.
Yeah. Yeah.
All those big BAMs
Those
or
big
big
BAMs.
drum cases. And
Yeah.
he beat those.
Yeah.
I mean, was he a great drummer?
I don't know. I don't know him as a drummer. I never
Like
seen
like
him.
literally sit
I've never
behind
seen
a
him.
drum kit.
I've never seen him sit behind a kit. You know.
But he could beatbox in time.
Oh, definitely. He was a rhythm machine, but I've never seen him actually sit behind a kit.
So I definitely wouldn't bet against him.
But
Yeah.
that drum case thing is layered on top of the snare during Beat It.
Yeah.
So when people say that he played snares on it, that's what they're talking about.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's backbeat.
The backbeat.
Didn't he hit some other stuff too? Didn't you do something with that?
Oh, well, I want to be starting something. We did some other things, you know, bathroom stomp board, rhythm on the wall, rhythm on a wooden case, yeah,
And he loved that
piece of plywood.
stuff,
Yeah,
right?
he loved that. Yeah.
I thought this is an interesting question. BWM5150 says, when making a synth sound, are there elements in the structure that are almost subliminal noises? What do these add to the sound?
That's definitely true, as is the case with like a bass. If you solo a bass track, there's like, you know, you're calling them subliminal because you kind of feel them, but you can hear them if you solo it, right? But you can't hear it in the track.
No.
But all the like finger noise and there's all kinds of anomalies in like good sounds. Violins, if you get up really close to them, you hear all this. So you mic violin far away. Synths have a lot of that. Analog synths do, but not the digital ones so much.
What jumps out to me is like the wind noise in Thriller, like something like that underneath that pad, underneath the Jupiter pad.
Okay. Well, that's like purposefully
That's right there.
putting an element in there. So you think it's a filter sweep, but it's a filter sweep plus wind sweeping and getting brighter.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's not what I thought he was saying necessarily, right?
Layers and layers and layers, all these different textures.
Yeah, like, you know, when you're building a sound.
Oh, so when you're doing an orchestration, for sure you want to do that.
Yeah.
You want to put in, like, even on each individual sound, you may have like a bass sound, but then just put like a little transient, a little bit of attack on it.
Yeah, that's what I think he's talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah, I do that kind of stuff all the time. And then with an analog sound, when you play it, it's different all the time. It's like constantly changing. It's not like not like a sample that just pops the same on every note. So
Yeah. Not
I love
not
that.
like now.
Yeah, not like now. I mean, that's what makes
Right.
it sound like
Right.
humans like it. You know?
Right.
A lot of people are asking about this, but Mastro de Chill says, what can you tell us about Carousel, the song that was replaced with Human Nature?
Was
It
it?
was.
Was Carousel on the album?
Yeah, he recorded it, but
No, I mean, was it
Oh.
supposed to go on for sure, and then
No,
Human
no.
Nature bumped it?
no. Well, yeah. I mean,
Is that what happened?
Carousel was one of the. It was in there. It was
Oh.
in there, and then Human Nature came along, and
Just randomly.
yeah,
Oh.
totally randomly, yeah.
Great.
I loved. I at one point I had a. Oh boy, sorry. Yeah. At one point I had I had all the demo cassettes and I don't know what happened to them. Yeah.
No.
But I had a demo of Carousel. Yeah.
Then why were they looking for another song? Was Human Nature supposed to be a replacement for Carousel? Wasn't it? They were looking for it to replace something else or fill a different hole.
They were looking for, it was one of those. What I remember is, the Stevie Wonder song.
I can't help
I
it.
can't help it. They wanted something to fill that. What that did for Off the Wall, they wanted that for Thriller, and Carousel was one of those songs. But
Oh, so it
just
fit the bill.
It fit the bill.
Okay.
But Human Nature, was just.
That's so
I won't.
incredible.
I won't say it was a. Human Nature was an amazing song, so I don't want to get into a better or worse. I don't want to put that out there, but it worked more for where the album was going. In
But
the
it's
direction
so
of the
crazy
record.
that it wasn't even a complete song.
No.
Human Nature was a chorus.
Yeah, but that chorus. That chorus,
and
you
then-
couldn't get out of
yeah.
your head,
And then it was like we gotta find a way to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
complete this and make it happen. And there was just,
I mean, that's a huge statement to make. It's very simple, but if they say why, tell them that it's human nature. I mean, that says a lot. When you think about humanity and life, and it says a lot just in that chorus.
And it fit Michael. I mean,
And
it was like
that's what I'm saying.
perfect,
It was, from where they wanted to, what they wanted to do for the record in that direction. It wasn't
Right.
It wasn't just another, I don't know,
It
pop
wasn't-
song.
And it wasn't just the music, right? That's what you're
No,
saying too.
Yeah, it was
the
more.
whole-
It's a message. Yeah, and other songs. You think about all the other songs on there that, quite a few of them. There was a much deeper meaning behind them. Billie Jean and "Wanna Be Starting Something." It was.
And it just turned into one of the all-time ones.
Yeah,
With the vocal performance.
It's the one. It's the one for me. It's the one for me. That and Billie Jean, especially live. Yeah, watching him do that live.
Anthony, can you talk about how Overthinking affected Michael in the studio? You said "Baby Be Mine" came together really quickly. I love that song.
What's the first part again?
Yeah, well,
About
Can you
Overthinking?
talk about how Overthinking affected Michael in the studio?
Overthinking?
I don't think anyone no one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think
I don't know that he...
Overthinking.
Let me think about that, though, because I want to answer it.
Yeah.
'Cause there's probably something there that you're hearing. I mean, because you're saying that Baby Be Mine happened fast, so you wouldn't be overthinking to do something quickly, it would be more spontaneous. They kind of knew what they wanted. There was a clear path to getting there. Michael was like playing the sounds on the turntable. The track was pretty close. The song was great. But I guess sometimes Michael was known for, more on the later albums, like taking a while, like with the songs, when he was kind of left to his own devices.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, on songs that he didn't write, he was very focused on his approach. Because it's one thing to hear the demo and Rod Temperton, singing in the room, and Rod wasn't a singer. How he was always respectful of someone else's creativity, and if he has to deliver the narrative, he wanted to make sure that he really embodied the story. So, and if there's any overthinking, it was like him spending more time. And once he figured out how he wanted to approach the song vocally, it went pretty quick.
But I'm thinking maybe when it's somebody else wrote the song, then he's just focused on the task of getting the vocal performance right, interpreting the lyrics, getting the feel, making sure everything, all the parts are right. Because he would, comment if something didn't feel right in the track. He'd pick that up right away.
Yeah.
But he was focused on that. Maybe when he wrote the songs, he would... because he was a budding songwriter, too. He wasn't coming from being a songwriter from the beginning. He was a kid performer singing songs by all these great songwriters. So maybe that's the part of it that you're suggesting. And he may have. It's like, I'm definitely guilty of it. Like, composing, it's never, kind of perfect. And you have to let go. And it's easier when somebody else writes it, and then you just focus on your task. But I didn't get that sense at the Thriller stage, but I didn't see him. You saw him compose like Billie Jean, right? Did you think that he really?
I didn't see any overthinking.
No pressing to get there.
No, it just came.
I think that more happened later.
Yeah, I wasn't around for Bad, that didn't happen with We Are the World when he wrote that with Lionel Richie. No, and overthinking is not something that I would equate with Michael.
Good point.
Yeah.
Jamar Salone Jr. asks, do either of you recall the order of the 9 songs on Thriller? I think he means the order they were recorded. Could Beat It have been the last song recorded for the album?
Beat It was not the last song recorded for the album, but I'm trying to think.
It's P.Y.T.
P.Y.T. was definitely towards the end.
Towards the end, yeah. P.Y.T.
Sure, because that track didn't exist.
Yeah,
the other tracks all were recorded.
Mm-hmm.
I remember P.Y.T. was, out of the songs on the album, the last one.
Yeah, I would think you're
It has
right.
to be.
I
Human
think you're
nature
right.
in that
Because
one
we
would
had been
probably
working
be-
on the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And P.Y.T. was like a really throw-in one
Yeah.
with James, and he wrote that fast. And
Yeah.
yeah, it has. I think
I
that's
think
it.
that would probably be P.Y.T. Yeah.
Remember the first ones?
Oh, the first one
I
was.
wouldn't know.
The first one was, in my recollection, was Billie Jean.
That the track happened.
First, yeah. I mean, it was definitely one of their
Yeah.
earliest ones. Yeah.
But they all kind of got layered, so it may have been recorded like the first thing first, but then we'd work on one, and then it would go away, and then another one, and then they'd listen to it and sort it out, and then they were always like the cooking kept going,
Yeah.
until the end, pretty much.
Another one from Mastro de Chill. Do you think Baby Be Mine? Why do you think Baby Be Mine wasn't a huge hit? It was my favorite song, and I think it's one of the grooviest tracks and one of Michael's best vocal performances.
Oh, that's funny because a really good friend of mine from way back high school days, he's always said that when we bumped into each other at some of these events, ASCAP, BMI Awards, and all that, CSAC, he said that Baby Be Mine. I've heard a number of people say that.
A lot of people
the vocal
like it a lot.
performance on Baby Be Mine is really something.
It's my favorite.
Yeah.
probably on the-
Yeah.
It's your favorite?
Yeah,
It's a
Song.
cool
Yeah.
song.
Yeah, song. Yeah.
I mean, it's a rod song.
Right.
like
the
it-
backgrounds are really great. You know, I mean, it's just.
The synth works was
Yeah,
on that one.
yeah,
too,
it's
which was
really cool.
great.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people feel that way.
It's the first one I was thrown into, too, when I showed up, day one. Baby Be Mine. I was like, what? And this sounds like a Michael, when I first heard it, because I really knew Off the Wall.
Right.
And because it's Rod writing for Michael, so it really sounded like an Off the Wall. But it was like,
It did actually.
it was
did,
the connective tissue from Off the Wall.
It actually felt
into-
like something that could have been on Off the Wall.
It could have.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
little more like electronic, than
Yeah.
Off the Wall,
Yeah.
because it didn't have the same live tracks and percussion.
Yeah.
But it did have it was a hybrid because it had live drums on it. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
badass, yeah.
Yeah.
It was perfect though to have some segue.
Mm-hmm.
So Thriller wasn't just like it evolved from Off
Yeah.
the Wall.
Yeah. Quite a few people over the years were surprised that it was never released as a single. Yeah.
I mean, they all could have been almost
Yeah,
everything.
Almost every.
but only five
almost
was
every
five
song.
singles, right?
Yeah. Fine.
And The
yeah.
Girl Is Mine was the first one?
That was the first. Yeah.
They thought that was the biggest single. I guess. I don't know. Isn't that what you usually do first?
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of like Bobby Huff says there's a long time controversy whether Paul Jackson Jr. is or isn't on Beat It. Do you guys know what the verdict is on this?
We'd have to ask Paul.
I remember Paul being the other guitar player on Beat It.
Well, then you remember.
Yeah. But Lukather is also listed.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not just Eddie.
And
Not
Eddie,
just
yeah.
well, Eddie only did the solo. Not only, but it's the solo. But the other parts that were put down, yeah, Lukather was on. Yeah, that's it's funny. In my memory, I may get confused. I know Paul is definitely the other guitar player on Billie Jean, but I think on Beat It. I
Oh,
think
he is? It's not just David? on
No, it's
Billie
not
Jean?
just David. No. And the other counter guitar part is Paul.
I mean, that was really common then to have multiple guitar players.
Yeah, that.
on
I do it now.
That's Paul.
Oh,
It's David.
right. I know
Yeah.
that's David.
Yeah.
That was the part
It's-
nobody
it's-
could
it's-
repeat.
Yeah, it's Paul. Yeah.
Let me find another good one. Okay, if Thriller was being made today, would the modern technology improve how it sounds, or would it lose its classic warmth?
Well, I have very strong opinions about that.
Well, I was talking to someone today about, how long does it take to do something? And it made me think, well, with the technology we have, the thinking is you can do it faster. Okay, so that may or may not be true. But I think, humans have ideas at kind of the same speed. And what matters more? So if you, give in to the technology, you might get there. And then you think you're done. But if you don't have the technology, sometimes you're sort of forced to climb the hill a little bit more, right? You don't have an elevator that takes you right up to the top of the hill. And I think the work ethic, like how many times do we hear that on all these interviews? How hard everybody worked. So if you have the technology, sometimes you don't have to give in to it. Right? So I don't want to just dog the new technology and say
not at all.
It can't be as good now.
No.
Because records are meant to be broken.
Yes.
Good luck, but they are, right?
Yes.
So you have to just get back to that. Like, what got it there?
Well,
go ahead.
Well, Anthony, you helped get it there, and this is my analogy of that. When you look at a Monet painting and you look at those gardens, all those flowers are different seeds, right? So when you turn around and look at this is a garden. It's not just one or two keyboards that can create all these sounds. You have to go and do work and know this. You have to know this. You have to know the difference between all the different sounds and textures. And when you do that, it's like you're planting a garden, as opposed to you walking in and going, here, I'm just going to take 3 bags of seeds, and that's going to grow everything else. It's going to grow trees and flowers and and fruit.
Well, you get there faster.
You get there faster. But you don't get that attention to detail, that nuance of sound that I feel, and you and I talked about this before, that affects everyone's central nervous system in a way that today, if you don't go through the process of textures, you don't. For me, emotionally, you don't get it.
Yeah, I think it's the process. Like that. That's the word. If you allow the process, and it's like how many times have we heard the two words together? Creative process.
Right.
So you can't try to short circuit it.
That's it. Yeah.
And see if you can do it.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't prove out that way necessarily when you short circuit the creative process. You get something else. So. But that level of care, it's like a grandmother or something caring for you. It's just no replacement.
There's no replacing. There's
no old school thinking.
No replacing when you know how to work all of this.
Well, it's like the lifetime of experience that all the people had coming together to execute a vision is where all the magic is.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can still do that.
You should.
No,
I think the best projects still do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
There's some great stuff now, and I just don't think they push a button.
Right.
No. Yeah,
no, they don't. They don't. But they're working with less elements in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to
instrumentation,
fight. Yeah, it's hard to fight and getting the play people in the room at the same time.
Yeah, I mean,
the stuff that happens, like not even in the room, like when you're there, the conversation.
Yes.
The musicians show up.
I would love to hear more live element with all of the new technology to still incorporate live guitar, live bass, to incorporate those things, a live drum kit.
Yeah, you know what?
Even if you only use a live hat versus a kick.
But you know what it made me think, Stephen? It's almost like it was a short-lived period because we had live stuff for years and years and years, right? For decades.
For years,
Everybody hung out and played live. But when the electronics hit the scene, between Thriller and when it went to just people coming in one at a time, was only a couple of years.
Right.
I never really thought of that
really
before.
is.
But it's a very condensed period. So during Thriller, it was like the concept of everybody coming together, playing together.
Yes.
But we were doing it with electronic instruments, so we still had the work ethic,
Yeah.
and we still didn't short circuit the process. But then later, it was just like everyone was just coming in one at a time, and before you know it, then people would just bring in their own tracks they were doing by themselves.
Right, exactly.
And you're eliminating the interaction.
You're eliminating the humanity of it.
Yeah.
Miguel says, were all the instrumentals built around Michael's ideas? Were the beats created based on songs he had already composed, or were any instrumentals the ones that led the way for Michael to start writing?
I like to say Michael wrote his songs, and Rod wrote his, and Steve Porcaro wrote his. That's how I like to answer that. Really, yeah.
And then the arranging happened mostly like the same way, like by the composer who decided. Rod really nailed his arrangements down.
Yeah.
Michael left them a little open, but he kind of knew what he wanted too.
Yeah, and Quincy had quite a say in what, because Quincy and Rod would get together, and go over Rod's songs. You know, when at the hotel in Westwood, at the Westwood Marquee, and then in the studio, or Rod would come to the house, and yeah, it was a very very interactive experience between song arranger Anthony. And,
Wow.
you know,
later,
you know,
not
you
at
know,
the songwriting process.
No, not at the songwriting process, but in the process post songwriting, things got altered a little bit based on
They were looking
sounds that were created and things you could do, and they said, oh, wait, maybe we should change that a little bit. You know, I remember that happening.
Yeah, we were asked to contribute.
Yeah.
So did Quincy have the same, you think, relationship with Michael as he did with? I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, he
in
did.
terms of the arranging.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So he'd get in there and they'd talk
Oh
about
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
And the Gorilla's Mind, maybe that's an anomaly, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that was between. Did they both write it?
Who? Paul and Michael? Yeah.
How did that happen?
I wasn't around when they wrote it, but
Like
I
actually
didn't-
sat together and come. That's an unknown to me.
yeah, I don't know if they, if they did their Elton
let's
John.
write a song.
Did they do the Elton John Bernie Taupin thing where Paul wrote the music and
I
then
think they
Michael
were
came
hanging
over?
out for a little bit.
Yeah, well,
Damn.
they were really close friends. So
I don't know
at
how that
time.
song, or like
But
somebody
I don't
just
know if they
really
were in
brought
the-
it in and said, "Here it is."
Yeah, I don't
and
know if they were in the same room. Like I said, the Elton John Bernie Taupin thing, where they never were in the same room. I
Is
don't
that
know.
how
I
they
don't
do
know.
it? They're never in the same room.
Elton John and Bernie Taupin were never in the same room.
Wow.
Bernie
That's
handed
pretty crazy.
Bernie.
It's like, no, we got to write a song, so
yeah,
we can't be together.
Bernie would send him the lyric, and
Wow,
Elton then would compose from there on. Yeah.
Always from the
Oh, it was
lyric.
that way?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Always from the
I
lyric.
thought it would be
Oh,
the
yeah.
other way, like
Oh,
top
no.
liners.
No, that's one of the greatest, most phenomenal things
Oh,
I'd
for
heard
sure.
early on. That, yeah, Bernie was obviously a brilliant lyricist, poet, and Elton would take it from there. And of course, they had the great the arranger Paul Buckmeister,
Oh,
yeah, who later then did all the orchestration. You know,
and James Newton Howard did do some
later.
later. Okay.
Later, yeah.
Funeral for a Friend. I remember
Yeah,
the synth
yeah,
on that.
yeah. Oh yeah, he's
I got my ear.
James. Yeah, yeah. Another session player back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was.
Yeah.
Molly asks again, could you guys feel when creating Thriller that you would caught lightning in a bottle? Could you feel the magic in the studio that we hear in the tracks?
Yes.
Yes, a profound yes.
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 But not like knowing the outcome, but yes.
Yeah. Not knowing the outcome, but we knew
Yeah.
we felt something was really special
You're like vibrating.
was happening. Yeah.
Coming home every
Yeah,
night.
yeah. I couldn't. I had a hard time going to sleep after I got back home because it was just all that sound in my head.
Yeah.
I know that.
And
I
you know
ended
the
up-
same thing. When you've got monitors, those huge monitors, at a high level all day, it takes a while for you to come down. You know.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I went to New England after that, like, because it was in the fall, and then I went on this trip to New England, and I just remember walking on the beach in Maine and hearing, like, those grooves, because you couldn't get a cassette or anything,
No.
but
no.
those things were infectious.
Yeah.
So
They're
the
easy-
next time you heard the album was released.
For me, it was, yeah.
Yeah. For
Well,
me,
I wasn't there for
being
that.
Quincy's assistant, I had access. We had
You would,
cassettes
yeah.
every night, but none of the musicians were allowed to bring home anything. Yeah.
Quit asks, was there a process for how Michael and Quincy would determine the order of the songs? Born in 1999, I'm not sure how A-B sides mattered since they don't seem to happen much now.
Oh, like what's on the B,
Yeah.
the backside,
Yeah.
side 2.
Yeah, I think
How'd they do that?
they had a say in that, but also the label would have a say as well. I mean, that was a bigger conversation.
The track list.
Yeah,
like order.
well, no, not the track list on the album,
The order,
but
though.
in terms of a B-side on a single, that was more of a label conversation. I know later when I did A&R, that was a label thing. Let's put this on the B-side, or
So I have one for you. When I was working with Greg on his solo album, Pulse,
Mhm.
he was doing something that he said he learned from Quincy. So I'm wondering if you ever saw him do it, or if you even saw him do it on Thriller. But he used note cards.
yes,
You
all
saw
the
him
time.
do it.
All
Because
the
Greg
time.
would do it with all his songs, and he'd put them on the ground and put them in an order.
Yeah, Quincy did that. That's how
maybe
they.
he did do that.
No,
on
that's what he
Thriller.
did. Yeah, that's what he did. He would sit there and go, okay, and then you play it. We'd be at the house, you know, and he in the studio at home, and he'd play it, and he would just, you know, mostly when I wasn't there, and he would just, you know,
And visualize it though.
And
'Cause you
visual-
lay
yeah.
the cards out on the
yeah,
floor.
and how it feels, and Smelly, well, Michael would do the same thing, you know. It's like, how does it feel going from one song to the next? How does it feel, you know?
So maybe they did. You're
Yeah,
pretty sure they
yeah.
did do it that
Yeah,
way.
the card thing is definitely
It's a
something.
good
Quincy
thing.
did.
I've used cards like since then for a lot of different things too, not just like sequencing an album, but
Oh yeah.
it's a good visual tool.
Yeah, because what people forget is that Quincy was also an artist for many years before he produced Michael Jackson. So that whole idea of putting together a sequence for an album, he was an artist signed to A&M. So, you know, yeah.
Right.
There's a second part of that question that Quit just asked. Speaking of Pulse, can you talk about Behind the Mask? It was recently on Thriller 40,
Yeah.
and Greg released it.
What do you want to know about it?
Yeah, what are they?
Maybe just like the story. It started as a Michael song, and then how it went to Greg. I mean, we've talked about it a
Well,
little.
Greg
you
has
can-
talked about it. You know, I've only heard him talk about it, and I remember because I did work on it on Greg's album. He was so happy to have that song, you know, and he was like kind of emulating. He had heard Michael's vocal performance,
Yeah.
and Greg's a great singer.
Yeah.
I really like listening to his
Yeah,
voice.
he's really underrated as a singer.
And you can
yeah.
check out his music video because that's the one song that did have a music video.
Right.
Pretty fun.
Right.
But you know, it was Sakamoto, right? It was Yellow
Mhm.
Magic Orchestra.
Yeah, who just unfortunately passed away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really a great guy, too. Really nice guy.
I didn't
Really
know.
talented. Yeah.
But the song, I guess it came close, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it written for Michael?
I don't,
It sure sounds
I
like
don't,
it could have been.
yeah, it was around, but I don't remember that it coming that close in terms
Yeah.
of making.
Oh, no?
making
Not
the
that
record.
close.
Yeah,
It just got to the house because that's where Greg heard it.
right.
The Motown Boy asks, were either of you in the studio when Bruce Sardine was doing any of the mix downs? If not, when did you first hear the mixes?
I was there every night, every day when Bruce was doing the mix downs. Yeah, I was there every day.
And it's important to remember there was no automation on these mixes, so
Yes,
he would do them all the way down.
yes. At one point, you know, individuals in the room were, you were assigned certain tracks to make certain moves because obviously Bruce couldn't cover the whole board. So, you know, Rod and Quincy, you know.
Oh, they were doing it?
Yeah, you had to, because he couldn't cover the whole board.
But Rod and Quincy got their
once,
hands in
Once
there?
you got a pass, once the tape started, and he's, you know, doing that, you had to, yeah.
I keep learning
So
stuff.
they really were like almost one day mixes, probably. Or like one pass.
Well, each mix is one pass.
Yeah.
They
yeah.
might do multiple passes.
Oh
And
no,
say,
no,
we
no!
don't have
we-
it right yet.
Oh no, we did. There were multiple passes.
But
Yeah, you do
ultimately, if you
multiple
got
passes.
it perfectly, you'd be mixing it in the length of the song.
And the
Right.
length
That's
of it,
how
yeah.
long it takes to.
Right.
It's
Well, it's funny because
mind-boggling.
we had a conversation earlier today about how long it would take. How long does it take to mix a record for people? And
Well, now completely different from back then.
I feel like now you could almost get lost in this like endless cycle of trying to mix.
You
things.
can.
And there are people that do.
but also, in fairness, they did set up the mix.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
They would
Absolutely.
set up, but then the flip side is they had 3 reverbs.
Yeah.
They had an EMT 250,
Yeah.
but then they would bring in a couple others because
Right.
there weren't that many sends.
No. No.
So you would just have like a couple of stereo reverbs,
Yeah.
a couple of delays,
yeah.
some compressors on some specific channels, and then you'd set it up and then you mix it.
Yeah, and Bruce, the brilliant, one of the brilliant things about him was that as the tracks were being laid and, you know, and performances were, and we would do playback long before the mixes, he was already pre-mixing as we went, you know, what
Yeah.
did it feel, what does the bass and drums feel, how do they feel together, then the guitar, and
Figuring
he
it
was
out.
already figuring that out, him and Matt, long before, and Quincy and Rod
Right.
sitting there. So when it came time to mix, it wasn't like he had to all of a sudden
Right.
redo everything in terms of an idea of levels and EQs and emotion, you know.
He recorded most things dry,
Yes.
like without any
Right.
EQ or even.
Right.
There was a question earlier about saying that Quincy didn't like over EQing things either,
No, did not.
and that
No, he did not.
Yeah.
He
That
used the mic.
Yeah.
Bruce was a fan of the mic as an instrument. He would record the vocal here, then the background, and we'd move it back, or tell the player to take a couple the singer, sorry, take a couple steps back. So he used perspective in the room. He would use different pieces of texture, flooring to get different reflections, early reflections.
Yeah.
So that's what he got a lot of, like, instead of having a lot of sends for reverbs, he could get those different ambiences already built into the tracks, which is great. And then they're natural. So instead of trying to get like a small room, let's put the backgrounds in a small room, he's literally doing that as he goes. So he's thinking ahead. And he also had score paper, like that you would write an orchestral score on.
Yes, he did.
And it was laid out all across the console.
All across the console.
So he was constantly making notes during the recording of what he was going to do in the mix.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He already, his prep was already as they went along. I like to say.
So it was more. It's like it's more of a process almost.
That's what Anthony was saying. I mean,
the whole album.
The whole album was a process, and Bruce was also a master of one of the lost arts. I think that's coming back now with live drummers. Is a lot of engineers. Well, back then Bruce was a master of how to mic a drum kit. So now you have all these isolation tracks that are out now. But if you listen to Jeff Porcaro isolated drums on Beat It, Indugu on Billie Jean, you listen, there's certain drum, I mean, even now for me, when I listen to certain records, I have there's 3 records that when it comes to a drum kit sound, one is Thriller, the other is Fleetwood Mac's album. You listen to Dreams, you listen to, those guys really knew how to mic a drum kit.
What do you like? Do they mic more room sound? What do you think?
It sounds more natural. It just sounds, there's less EQ. When you hit that kick, feels real. It doesn't feel like it's blown out of proportion or nothing else. It just, you listen to, a Crash, for example, on the song Dreams, for example.
Right.
That's Crash. That cymbal just rings. I mean, it's just beautiful the way they.
I think it's because those old school engineers.
Those engineers knew,
their instrument. Like somebody would play a saxophone. They were like a musician that played mic.
Yeah.
And they knew how to use the mics, and they didn't have too many. They knew about phasing, and if you put too many mics in a room, you kind of cancel yourself out.
Yeah.
Because the mics are doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're canceling.
Ken Calais on Fleetwood Mac, Bruce Swedin on Thriller, Roger Nichols on all those Steely Dan records. You listen. You isolate those tracks, man. Those guys, they really knew how to mic. They knew the art of miking.
Because that's all it is, and then they didn't mess with it too much.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
SAI asks, who besides Bruce Swedin was present at the Alan Zentz during mastering?
Quincy.
About that, Quincy.
Yeah.
Was Michael?
I just remember being there with Quincy and
At the mastering?
yeah.
Did they do much?
Was Matt there?
Matt, I think he said
Matt.
was
Yeah,
there.
Matt came. But I remember with back then it was Alan Zentz, but it was also
Grunman?
yeah, Bernie. Yeah.
I don't know where it was mastered. Was
Yeah.
it mastered at
I remember
Bernie
being
Brennan?
at Bernie's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Alan may have been off the wall, but I remember Bernie. Bernie was he was the king.
He was the master.
He was the king. Yeah. I mean, Bernie Gorman, I think, mastered more records than anyone.
I didn't even know about mastering back then. I don't even understand what
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was so interesting to watch that process. Boy.
Because see, they were dealing with vinyl, so that's where
Exactly.
you really needed it, because
Exactly.
you can't put low end
Right.
on the vinyl, and that's another reason why if you
Why?
have too many tracks on there, you don't you need a fat groove to get the low end to reproduce. So if you had fewer tracks, like I remember there was some album by Yes that was like
Oh yes.
all blank,
Oh yes.
right? It was just like this one song, and that was it. Like I got gypped. But the idea, I guess, was
That wasn't Owner of the Lonely Heart, was it? Was it that one?
No, that was later.
That was later.
I can't
Okay.
remember which album
Yeah,
it was, but every
yeah.
once in a while I would get an album and it would be like all like empty space on there. I didn't understand any of that stuff, but now I do. So yeah, they had to be concerned with that.
Yeah.
The mastering guys were, and I guess they just nailed it on Thriller because it seems to capture.
Oh, you know what record
all
was
the
like that?
frequencies.
I remember to that point was Grover Washington's Mr. Magic that Bob James
Oh, yeah.
produced. Yeah. It was like you had 2-3 songs
That was
on
big.
one side.
Is that
you know?
right? Yeah, that
Yeah,
did have
remember
a
that?
few. That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Didn't have that hit. That had the hit on it, right?
Yeah, and that's that. Yeah,
What was that
Mr.
name?
Magic.
That was the hit.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was it. Yeah.
This is just like a question coming from me as like a Gen Z person, but when Thriller was released, was tape out at all, like cassette tapes, or it was all
Oh, yeah.
vinyls?
For sure.
Oh yeah, no,
released to
it was cassette. It was cassette.
was, like, the
that,
major
that was your
platform.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, cassette.
Which was more popular?
cassette in the car. That's a good question in terms of sales.
The cassette was pretty popular.
It was because you could roll around. You
Was
know,
it more less expensive?
Well, you
too?
could play it in the car.
you played in the car.
You couldn't play the vinyl in the car, so
Yeah.
everybody wanted to play
Yeah.
the album in the
The
car.
car. Yeah,
But
definitely.
was it more expensive to one versus the other?
It was like
it
$1
vinyl like a
more. No,
premium
vinyl.
thing?
I could be wrong. I just remember vinyl being a little bit more, but
Yeah, vinyl
was
was
only
more.
like $3-4.
Yeah, vinyl was more because it was a bigger. The packaging was bigger. You had all the liner notes. It was a big 12-inch, piece of work, and you had all the artwork. So it was more expensive than a cassette. Was only like.
But a lot of people would buy both
Yeah. Oh yeah. I bought.
because you
I
want
would
to
always
play
buy
in the
both.
car.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
whole point of it.
Yeah.
So you'd have like a hi-fi system at home. You listen to vinyl.
Or I
just
shouldn't say, but you would record because you could record on a cassette.
Yeah.
You
Right.
would record the vinyl onto
Oh,
the
yeah.
cassette
Later you were able
and
to
then
do
play
that.
in the car.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
That's what
yeah.
everybody did.
Right. Exactly.
There was
yeah.
bootleg cassettes
Yeah.
from concerts. Like
Yeah.
everybody was
Yeah.
doing that. And
I've always been curious to what I never did was A/B a cassette you purchased versus a cassette you transferred from vinyl, sound wise.
that'd be good to do.
I wonder what.
I'm pretty
I
sure
never did that.
You
Yeah.
would never beat vinyl though.
No. But I mean
think
cassette
so.
to cassette.
Yeah, I
If you
understand
know
what
what
you're
I mean?
saying.
Yeah. But
Cassette-
vinyl was
It's so skinny. The cassette is just too small, and then they had the cassettes that were just coming out. Like the Nakamichis had them, but the noise reduction.
right, and that's what I would transfer to Makamichi because it was better than the other cassettes, But
They're real hissy.
yeah. I still have my Thriller cassette.
Do you?
Yeah, and the vinyl.
Wow. Someone's saying that they go for $170.
The Thriller cassettes?
The
What?
original vinyls.
Really? I have
Oh,
one.
really? Wow.
And then the Thriller CD first came out in 1983.
Yes.
Oh,
So it was only a year after it came out in
Yeah.
CD.
wow.
Which was when that single came out.
Is that right? The CD was out that
Yeah,
early?
It was in '83.
I don't remember
I don't
that.
remember that.
He
no,
says late
no.
83 in the chat, Motown Boy.
Oh no, I don't remember that. Because
I don't even know who had a CD player.
because
then.
Capitol didn't switch over not all their plants. When I started at Capitol and A&R, they were the first company, SEMA, to move from vinyl cassette to CD.
Yeah, that
So,
seemed a lot
that's-
later. to
that's-
me.
that's
I don't know
later.
who
That
would
was
be
in
like-
1982 was the year of CD.
Wow,
Yeah.
good
Really?
one.
Wow.
We'll give you that one.
Okay, I didn't realize.
But
that.
I don't. I can. I mean, none of my friends had a
No,
CD.
no. Well, I'll just put it this way: Sony did not have CDs in. I don't remember Sony having CDs in '82.
The first one was Billy Joel's 52nd Street.
That's the
Oh,
first
okay.
CD.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's some trivia.
Yeah, definitely. I gotta look into that.
Who would guess that?
Yeah. Wow. That's Phil Ramone, the great Phil Ramone.
Thinking ahead.
Yeah.
This other question was, do you advise for a particular way to listen to Thriller for the studio sound with studio monitors, headphones?
Oh. I guess
I do it in
4311s. What was that? Wasn't that the
Yeah,
model?
I do it in headphones.
Weren't they
For the average person, get a
Well,
good
yeah.
get a great pair of headphones.
right? Because you're not going to get.
Because you're not going to be able to.
No,
most
but
people can't afford
Well,
them.
that's going to give you like the most neutral, I guess, if you have like really great headphones, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to be colored by the speakers. But
Right.
wasn't the question partly like for the studio experience or something?
Or was it just in general? What was the question?
Just in general, yeah. How to get the studio sound of
Yeah, well, the studio sound.
Oh, then
40. I think he used. Didn't he have 4311s? I know they had the Westlake's. Okay, just for history, Westlake was built to be a speaker showroom.
yeah, I know.
It wasn't as a
So it was
studio.
Westlake, NS10s, and
Not NS10s, Oratones. They didn't have NS10s.
they didn't. We didn't
4311s.
Oh right, 4311s.
The
That's
JBLs.
right. The JBLs. Right. What am I saying? NS10s came
And then
later.
the Oratones.
NS10s
So I
came later.
would
yeah.
get a pair of
and then a little
4311s.
Oratone.
And then the Oratones, and then listen to it. Like that would be like Quincy would say,
Radio.
put on the radio.
Put it on the radio, because you wanted to make sure it was going to translate
know-
it at A&M radio, because most people in the country, around the country, could always get A&M, AM radio versus FM.
That's right. The good producers would do that.
Yeah.
And I remember James
'Cause-
Anthony Carmichael from,
Yes.
from Lionel Richie.
Yeah.
He had a realistic
Yeah.
like little blaster.
Yes,
and he would
did.
put everything on
He
that.
did, he did.
And that was how he could tell if it was working or not.
Yeah, I was just talking to a buddy of mine who worked with him
I
for
would
years.
listen on 4311s and get that studio experience and see what happened. I would be interested to do that. That'd be kind of a fun.
Yeah. Ralph Sutton, if you're out there, yeah, let's do that. Ralph Sutton's a great engineer. Worked with James Michael Carmichael.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I think we got time for one more question in the chat. If you guys have any
Oh, I went fast.
last ones you guys want to get in there. I'll just tell you guys what the chat's saying. The CD was released in Japan in 1983, and the U.S. it was 1984 for Thriller.
Good job.
Yeah.
We love that you guys are telling us stuff.
Is there a Dolby Atmos mix of the album, and have you heard it?
I haven't.
Yeah.
I haven't.
I'm surprised. That's so funny.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because Sony. Does Sony kind of control it?
Yeah.
They don't want to do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I've heard Atmos mixes in almost. I mean, I even heard
I wonder.
a DTS of Jimi Hendrix "Are You Experienced?"
Wow.
And Eddie Kramer did it.
Wow.
Like in Atmos. This was
Wow.
years ago, though. This
Wow.
was like in 2013.
Well,
I heard it.
I wonder if there is then.
And not Thriller.
They might have not released it,
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
or
interesting.
they might be planning to do that with the documentary.
Or just the 40th, maybe sometime within
Yeah.
the 40th year anniversary. Yeah.
And then would it be good?
Right.
Who's gonna do it?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Who's
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
approve
yeah.
it?
Who's gonna do it?
Because that's a
Yeah.
whole different.
Yeah.
You know, Mike Dean's doing some really nice Atmos mixes.
Yeah, he is.
I've heard some of his stuff up there, and he takes the right care. You know, and it isn't just like things all dispersed, because it's easy to. It's hard to get a good Atmos mix, I think.
Well, there's like 11 sound sources.
Yeah, and if
right?
you just throw
Yeah.
everything in a different hole, it's so disjunct.
Yeah, that's interesting. That. Because
I'd like to hear what somebody would do with it.
yeah.
Where do you put Michael?
Right.
Because there's the voice of God,
No, right,
too, the
right,
four
right,
speakers
right.
above you.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You can put him
Yeah.
upstairs.
Where do you? Yeah. Where does it? Does he come right over
You
your
can
head?
move him around. I mean, you put
Yeah.
him center. That's the obvious
Yeah,
thing.
you put him
but
center, but do you put him right down where he comes right past here, right?
human nature.
He
be
comes
pretty-
here and comes. That would
You know,
be
because
really,
it's got the
that would be,
delays.
That would be really awesome.
The tape echoes that
Yeah,
Steve put
that
on
would
there.
be really awesome. Well, what are those those? You know, you and I talked about. You have them
What do I have?
at the iPhone. I mean, at the Apple Store. Those. Remember, we were in the. I was talking on the cell phone. Those headphones they sell now.
I have
The
them?
new Max headphones?
No, the ones they sell, they're like $500.
Oh, I don't have anything fancy.
Yeah, they.
Oh,
yeah,
people
anyway.
are saying that they have it on Apple Music.
What, the Atmos
The
mix?
Atmos mixes.
Oh, they
I
do?
gotta double check on that. but-
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Because
about that.
those headphones they sell there are really.
Oh.
It sounds like you know
Oh,
what I'm talking
I know what
about.
you're talking about. Like the headphone version, like DTS calls it Headphone X.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
But yeah,
it sounds
Dolby
like
makes a headphone algorithm that you can get surround
I
with.
think the Apple one's called Spiral Audio.
Yeah, man. It's
Yeah, you get the similar effect. It's
Yeah.
a psychoacoustic thing that happens.
Yeah, I definitely want to get those because I
Yeah, okay, so that's another thing to learn. Now I have to listen to the Atmos mix. You guys have been great today.
yeah.
Yeah, really good chat, everyone. I
Yeah.
think that's a good place to wrap it up. Do you guys
Went
have any last
fast.
thing you
Yeah,
wanna
that
say?
did. That went real
Thank
fast.
you.
Yeah.
No, I mean, thank you, everybody,
Thank
really,
you.
for
Yeah.
engaging. I really do learn things. It's just interesting. Even giving an answer, sometimes I'm learning a new thing,
Right.
honestly. So
Right.
I appreciate it. It's a pleasure, and it's our honor to be here as the mouthpieces, because you know
Absolutely.
so many people made this thing happen, and we have our memories left,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah, and we're not. We don't need Prevagen yet, but
No, we're good. We're good.
All right, thank you, everyone. Go check out the new episode with Matt Forger, and there's another one with Porcaro coming out on Thursday.
great.
All right.
We
Great.
got some exciting episodes this week, so make sure you subscribe on YouTube.
Make sure you subscribe, yeah, and if you have any ideas for podcasts, you know, we're open. You can ping us, message
Direct
us.
message us on Instagram. That's probably the best place where we're checking the most often.
Yeah.
And we have the podcast audio only too, so if you're driving,
Yeah, you're driving
know,
across country or rolling in the car,
you
driving.
can go that route.
Yeah.
That's why we have them out there.
For everybody out there driving somewhere on spring break.
It's on
Yeah.
every platform,
It's on every platform.
podcast platform imaginable.
Yeah.
everyone imaginable.
Yeah.
And it's all the same stuff. So
Yeah.
you'll hear us.